Greetings, my brothers and sisters in Kentucky. As you know, Chi Alpha is a worldwide movement. We're not just here in the U.S., but really influence all around the world as we're planting the flag of Christ on the secular university, the most strategic mission field in the world. But what really enables us to be able to do that? Well, to be a movement means that we have standards, we have a mission statement, a vision statement, we have values, we have training that enables us to have the credibility with universities to be able to go on and be a registered student organization. One of the most critical things that helps us do that and gives us credibility is our campus missionary and training, our CMIT process. That is something that is so invaluable, is that it is the onboarding of all of our future missionaries and long-term staff. So I really want to encourage every one of you, as you commit to step in to the full throes of Chi Alpha Campus Ministries, as you're willing to plant the flag of Christ on the most strategic mission field in the world, that you seriously consider and adopt doing the CMIT program. As a matter of fact, without it, it's a great limiter to you. It will limit you to really short-term ministry. It will limit you from not really being able to get a full U.S. missionary appointment. It is the pathway on to longevity, fruitfulness, and health on the campus. So CMIT, it's the way to go. Kentucky, we love you. Thank you so much for working to advance university student ministry through Chi Alpha in your ministry network and district.
Hey Kentucky Chi Alpha, my name is Jonathan Miller and I'm the director of Chi Alpha at Austin Peay State University in Clarksville, just a little south of you guys. It's been nice getting to know some of you guys over the last couple of years at SALT and different things like that, but Ronnie asked me to share a little bit about my CMIT experience, and as a dude that had done church ministry for many years beforehand, I was on staff for about 12 years. I approached National Chi Alpha and I was like, man, I don't need to do an internship. Like, I'm pretty experienced, like I know how to do all this stuff. And they're like, yeah, that's awesome. You should do an internship. And eventually I just submitted to that authority that was placed in my life, and it has completely changed my life. Doing a CMIT revolutionized the way that I see the campus and the tools that I have to effectively reach students on the campus. And you wouldn't think this, but now 10 years later, we're able to host our own internship experience. So people are able to come and to receive the same sort of training that I initially kind of pushed back to. I don't know why. I don't even know why. I think that if I considered it now, maybe there was some pride, maybe I just needed to be humbled. But more than anything, I appreciate the life change that took place for me during my CMIT. And then just the tools that I have now that I'm able to more effectively disciple and to make investment in the lives of students so that they're going to change not just the university, but the marketplace and the world. Hey, good luck, Kentucky, as you guys continue to make big things happen for Jesus.
Hey friends, my name is Stephanie Chappelle and I'm your National Program Director for Chi Alpha. I want to take just a few moments and share some thoughts we have about the Campus Missionary and Training Program and why we find it so valuable. And it really comes to a couple things. One, for the individual training of a campus missionary who's part of Chi Alpha, and then for the larger movement, where we want to go and what our vision is for the movement of Chi Alpha. And I think about the training. I remember going through the CMIT program myself, and even though I had known how to do some things, no question about that, it's interesting that I learned I didn't know what I didn't know. And being under the leadership of someone who had been identified as one of the most fruitful campus missionaries in the nation, somebody who would be qualified to train other missionaries, was an incredible experience for me. It kind of reminds me when I served with Chi Alpha at Georgetown Medical School, and I was surrounded by all of these young men and women who were the cream of the crop academically. They graduated with their medical degree from one of the most challenging medical schools in the nation, and yet they still had to specialize. They still needed to go through a residency to specialize for their field. And I kind of feel like that with the CMIT program, there's a specialization that comes with being a campus missionary. And that is not only for our training, but then that also speaks into where we want to go as a movement. What do we want reproduced? What about our values? What about our practices? Do we want reproduced so we can then send somebody potentially to a hard campus who can then bring the values, bring the training, bring the practices to a campus, and they learn to exegete that campus, but with the core training that we have, which then allows them to raise up and reproduce a ministry that is Chi Alpha. So those are just a couple of thoughts. We'd be happy to talk. I'd be happy to spend some time talking to anybody. I know Ronnie is connecting with you guys. His leadership, that's a great example. Ronnie's leadership is the kind of leadership we want reproduced. And I appreciate the fact that you all are in this process and discernment, the discernment process, and we are here with you and for you. Thanks so much.
Hey, Chi Alpha, Kentucky. This is Eli Gautreaux. Ronnie asked me to share a few thoughts about why a full CMIT program might be advantageous to somebody who is considering full-time Chi Alpha and long-term campus ministry. And I'll just say with all of my heart that I don't think that we could ever overstate the value of a CMIT experience. In fact, I was having this conversation with a friend recently who's called to do international student work, and he was asking, why should I do a CMIT program when it would delay me an entire year before going overseas? And I just told him, I said, frankly, bro, it will not delay you an entire year. It will actually propel you at least 5 years. What you would learn in the CMIT program and what you would experience there about what to do, what not to do in a new pioneering experience would actually be the difference between your first term. As you know, in the assemblies, a missionary term is 4 years. So it would be the difference between your first term just being getting your bearings and learning what you're doing, what not to do, versus your first term being a fruitful harvest. So in my mind, a CMIT experience will actually propel the harvest on your campus by at least 4 or 5 years, as opposed to just kind of figuring it out on your own as you go. So that's reason number one, and we could talk about that more in detail. In fact, I'm going to give you my phone number and email address, so if you want to call and talk about why that is, then I'd love to have a conversation with you about it. The other reason I would say, at least in my context, is that I've seen when people have come in to do a CMIT program with us, you're living life in a cohort with other people who are called to campus ministry. And inevitably, you'll make some really, really, really good friends, lifelong friends. And one or two of those people are going to want to go do ministry with you on your campus. So in other words, it's going to be easier to build a team from an existing CMIT program than just recruiting from where you're at. So in my experience, the second benefit is that you're just going to pick up team members. You're going to pick up friends that you've learned together, and they're just going to want to go with you to help you. Now, you'd have to clarify that with your preferred CMIT director, whether or not that's good form and good etiquette. Speaking from Sam Houston State experience, we encourage that, and we want anybody that comes in and goes out in a pioneering context to then leave with team members. So those are a couple of reasons. So many others we could think of. My phone number is 936-662-4278. 936-662-4278. My email is elig@sent.com, elig@sent.com. If you want to have a conversation about this, I'll be honest with you and would love to talk to you about it. But God bless you guys, and hope the Lord is with you during these days at your Light Conference. Hope it's a great time.
Hi, my name is Darren Lemon. I am the Chi Alpha Director for the state of Utah. And I believe we did the internship, the CMIT program with Ronnie back in around 2010. Since that time, we pioneered Chi Alpha at Utah Valley University and also at the University of Utah. And a couple things come to mind when I think about how beneficial that experience was to do the CMIT. My wife and I had already been in ministry for about 15 years as youth pastors and associate pastors at a couple of different churches. But we saw how strategic it could be to work with a veteran in campus ministry, a missionary to the campus. And we believe, and I'm sure a lot of people believe, that some things are better caught than taught. And I know that our time with Ronnie dramatically decreased the learning curve that we had we tried to do what we have done when we came to Utah without spending that time with Ronnie. And so just being able to observe, taking students from just attenders to walking them through leadership class and into full-fledged student leaders, it's something just to be able to be a part of that process was something that we couldn't have done just by simply reading a book. And also, I think just working with Ronnie and just seeing how he functioned as a mission, as he was a pastor, but he was also a missionary to the campus, and what that meant to do that when you show up on a campus. And so I think those are a couple of things that come to mind when I think about why people should do a CMIT. And as a district director in Utah, I also require our directors and future pioneers to have completed a CMIT program with Chi Alpha.
Hello, Jim Woolley here with Arkansas State University Chi Alpha. Back in the day when Julie and I began our journey with Chi Alpha, we had been in local church ministry 22 years, something like that. And when asked if we were willing to do CMIT training, we said yes, because we really didn't understand Chi Alpha. After visiting with the national leaders, they said, you know what, we just want to get it started. And they sent us on to Arkansas State University. Now, let me just say, I think that was a mistake. If I could go back, I would ask to be trained, because it was nothing like local church ministry. It's a whole different animal. Look, if I want to be a chef, I'm going to go to a cooking school. If I want to be a welder, I'm going to go to welding school. Because I need to learn the system that is set up. I don't know of a system that is more Christ-like than what Chi Alpha has set up when it comes to things like discipleship. And the best way to get it is not by reading a book, and it's certainly not by doing local church ministry. You got to wrap your mind around it through life experience of the baptism, of the experience of being around people who are doing this while you're trying to do it, to understand the struggles, the ups and the downs, the relationship aspect, all of this. If I were to do it over, without a doubt, unapologetically, we would go to a CMIT, because we needed it. It would have saved us what took us 5 years to get going. It would have done all of that for us within a year's time. So I just want to encourage you, go to a CMIT. It's worth the time. It saves you in the long run. You'll be so much further down the road. Do the math. Once you start discipleship, you will always be behind at that 5-year mark, because just look at where you would be at 5 years and then go 5 years further. That's where you should be. Hey, blessings to you. Hope you have a prosperous ministry with Chi Alpha.
My name is Paul Burkhart, and I currently serve as the state director for Chi Alpha in the Alaska Ministry Network, as well as the local campus lead pastor at the University of Alaska in Fairbanks. I've been asked to talk a little bit about the CMIT, our experiences, and how it has impacted our ministry up in Alaska. Before coming to Chi Alpha, our family, we graduated from Bible college, local pastors, and then 9 years in Southeast Asia in pioneering unreached peoples. And when God radically called us to Alaska and to Chi Alpha, many of our friends and even the state leadership encouraged us not to slow down and do the CMIT. Thankfully, we had some friends encourage us to consider it, and when my wife and I looked and considered what we should do next, we would never have gone into a new country without learning language, learning culture, and spending a little bit of time understanding the people that we were going to be doing ministry to. And so thankfully, we ended up doing the CMIT at Sam Houston State in Huntsville, Texas. Now, let me tell you, it wasn't easy. We moved 4 small children halfway around the world. During the transition period, we spent 3 months in the basement of my brother-in-law, and then we moved into a small duplex with 6 people and 2 bedrooms for 10 months, just so we could be prepared to be able to pioneer in Alaska. And it wasn't like we learned any radically new information or any new practices. But what we did learn was connections with the local pastors, understanding the culture of the university, and how to do discipleship on the university campus. Because one thing I do have a conviction about is that discipleship is caught and it's not taught. Some of those relationships that we encountered there have become our best friends, continue to be mentors, and continue to impact our ministry to this day. On top of that, we met 7 other young men and women that received a call to Alaska and came up to Alaska to pioneer with us, not just one campus, but 2 campuses simultaneously. And God has been continuing to do mighty and miraculous things. Before COVID, between the 2 campuses, over 400 students met on a weekly basis for discipleship. We literally have seen thousands of young men and women come through our discipleship communities, and hundreds upon hundreds go through our leadership training. All of this has been directly connected to our willingness to do the CMIT and our team to go through that training and preparation cycle. This is biblical. Preparation is directly connected to fruitfulness, and shortchanging or rushing your preparation cycle biblically has lots of evidence that this will have an impact on long-term fruitfulness. If you have any questions or concerns, you want to dig into this a little bit more, let me encourage you to reach out to me. I would love to be available. Obviously, our family is significantly invested in the CMIT. We've been doing the program for 5 years here on our campus. And one thing I love is being able to look at a young man or woman who just graduated with a master's degree in engineering or in business and being able to say, listen, this is worth it. It's worth the investment. I know I've done it. And one day when you're asking young men and women to do your CMIT program, you'll need the relational credit as well as your own personal experiences to be able to help them move into this calling that God has on their lives. Let me just express my excitement that you're joining the Chi Alpha family, this community that is committed to making disciples who make disciples. It really is one of the most strategic things that you can do with your life. I look forward to meeting you someday soon. God bless.